Hi guys, Harmony Turbines Weekly Whirl 23 coming at you. I apologize for this weekly whirl being late by a couple days, but sometimes life happens and things that we can't necessarily control or things that are out of our control take precedence. So in any event, I'm putting Weekly Whirl 23 out a few days late, and hopefully you'll enjoy the information we have to share. I got stung by a bee a few days ago, actually a yellow jacket, two of them, and I've been stung by yellow jackets before, but this time I got stung in my finger, and it was a severe reaction. I got stung on the back of my head and then my finger, and it was just really incredibly painful, more than any bee sting I've ever had in my life, and that definitely messed me up for a few days. I obviously couldn't do much with my left hand, and that includes typing and working on the computer. So anyway, it seems to be improving now and the swelling is going down, but yeah, that was a fun adventure. So all right, down to it. What you're seeing us do here is load our 1 kilowatt turbine into the back of my truck for testing purposes, and for testing purposes only. Obviously, this is not a unit that's meant for any type of mounting on vehicles in any way, shape, or form. We are just strictly doing it to gather test data and help us to see the performance of what this 1 kilowatt turbine can do. It's not the best of conditions to put a wind turbine on top of a vehicle and drive down the road, because you've got a lot of other variables playing into that. But with the wind as it is in our area, we really don't have many opportunities for good, strong winds to gather data. So instead of sitting and waiting for weeks or months for that good wind, we're going to take it out on the road and do some limited testing. We found a spot just a half a mile away from our shop here that has a very, very good open road that's not heavily traveled and has no obstructions of wires or trees. We get about 9/10 of a mile each way, and then we have a nice turnaround point. There's one of the turnaround points there at each end of this. So it's beautiful. We have a unobstructed run of just about a mile, and if you're going at 30 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour, you get a good 90 seconds of data, minimum of 90 seconds of data, of good, strong wind data. So it's really a nice opportunity for us to test what the 1 kilowatt unit could do. Now, I did say long ago we would be reporting out good and bad data and reporting right on through the learning process of this. So we've got a lot of things that we're trying to figure out here with this unit, and one of them being we don't yet have the furling mechanism hooked up. So we have Harmony just opened up right now manually, and as we drive, we didn't realize this was happening, but the scoops began closing. They actually started closing probably after the first or second run, to where we were only opened about 70%, and so we were 30% furled without even realizing it. And it was only after review of our data and looking at all the videos that we caught this, but that started to skew some of our data right off the bat. So, you know, obviously you need to be, sorry, I keep saying obviously, you need to be 100% open to capture maximum wind in the lower wind speeds. You can see how it's spinning really well right there, but then in some later videos, it looks to be spinning slower, and we were not really sure what was going on. Well, it was because it was partially filled. It was about there. You can even see it in that shot as we're going by. It's already begun to close up. So we were only probably like 80% open in that shot, and it gets worse. A little bit later, we're about 70% open, and we were worrying about so many other things with the generator and trying to look at the charge controller and everything that we did not catch that it had already begun to furl. So sorry about that. The data is skewed because of that. We weren't fully opened, and that definitely threw off the peak performance or the peak production rates. It did confirm the hypothesis I've said all along, and I mean, it was kind of one of those things that you knew it had to be true, but it confirms that we will most definitely be able to decrease our RPMs when we begin to furl. So in severe winds, in high winds, as we begin to furl in, it will definitely cut down on the the RPMs of the turbine, so it will effectively protect our unit from any high wind damage just by starting to furl in without any braking mechanism or a dump load of any kind. So that's a great thing that we learned right there. It did skew our data. So, you know, that's what prototyping is, guys. It's learning, it's growing, and it's taking one step at a time. You might take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but that's what invention, that's what prototyping, that's what true research and development is all about. You can see right there, if you pause the video at any moment, you'll see we are definitely like 70% open there instead of 100% open. So it's unfortunate that we didn't catch that and correct for that, but it's okay. You know, it's a learning process, and we learned a lot of great things that we liked. We learned some things we didn't like, and that's how it goes. 450 RPM.
45 wind speed.
400, almost 500 watts.
Nice.
1/2 kilowatt. 40, what's the wind speed on 400?
45.
45 miles per hour wind, okay. So even though that data sounds rather disappointing to be only producing 500 watts of power, or almost 500 watts of power in a 45 mile per hour wind, you've got to take a lot of things into consideration here. One is our toothed pulley to this 1 kilowatt generator back there is adding a lot of extra drag on the system. We were fighting with trying to get the right tension on that toothed pulley. We clearly had the unit about 30% furled and didn't even realize it, so we weren't open fully. The charge controller was being a real bugger. We were fighting and fighting with the charge controller to try and manually set up the steps where we wanted the power curve to kind of cut in with 2 amps and 3 amps and 5 amps, and it just was a challenge working with this Tumo International charge controller from China that is, we're probably going to end up having to get a new charge controller. It's just, you know, you don't want to sit here and fight with your technology because it's got limitations. You want your technology to be assisting you, not hindering you in your research and development. So the clearly we have the ability to safely reduce our RPMs and allow the unit to continue producing at whatever power level we want through the furling system. So that is going to be wonderful in high wind and extreme wind conditions, typhoons, hurricanes, places where they get extreme winds on the coast, things like that. So Harmony is going to be fantastic in severe wind situations. I have no doubt about that, and I think this video right here clearly illustrates that for us. What we're struggling with right now is just getting some of the equipment and the system, the toothed pulley, the actual white little generator down below, the gear ratio between the large and the small pulley coming off of the main shaft of Harmony to that generator. There's a lot of things we're trying to dial in right now. And you have to understand this is a research and development process. You might, as I said, take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. But as long as you are continuing to push forward, continuing to learn and grow with your process, you will eventually overcome those obstacles. That's what any true development project is about. Learning and growing and then improving as you make those incremental improvements and finally turn it into a really great product. There we're just furling things in. You can see closing it down manually, but we will certainly need to put a locking mechanism on it so that when we come out in the future for testing, we can actually lock it at a specific furling state, and we don't have to worry about the unit closing up or partially closing up on us without our knowledge, or in cases where we're not wanting it to furl up. So there will be more testing coming. You know, we're going to adjust and learn and grow as we make improvements and adjustments. That's what this is all about. We're taking you along for this wonderful journey. It's been 4 years since we started kind of recording things and putting it down into video and chronicling it on YouTube and Facebook. So hopefully you continue to watch and learn with us, and we all grow together trying to make our world a better place. Thank you for sticking with us, growing with us, learning, and sharing in this process as we build and grow together. Harmony Turbines. We now have the power to change the world.